All right, let's take a little trip back in time. We're heading to a sun-soaked, sweat-stained, and, let's be honest, completely unforgettable decade. We're going to dig into some of those classic Aussie experiences from the 1980s. You know, the kind of memories that, if you were there, are pretty much burned into your bones by now.
You know, it's funny. When you think back, the sounds of the 80s weren't just the music, were they? It was that unmistakable slap of a screen door on a hot afternoon, the thwack of a tennis ball hitting a wheelie bin, or that little tinny jingle of a bell when you pushed open the door to the local milk bar. That was the real soundtrack.
The 80s in Australia, man, it was just its own unique little bubble in time. So this isn't just about making a list of old stuff, it's about tapping back into those feelings, those rituals that really defined the era. And we're going to start with the places that were the backdrop for pretty much everything.
Yeah, before there were giant mega malls and convenience stores on every single corner, community life really did revolve around the local shops. You knew the places, and you knew the people who ran them. And right at the very heart of it all was one particular Aussie icon. Before 7-Eleven was a thing, the milk bar was the absolute heart and soul of the suburb. You know the ones, often run by the same Greek or Italian family for like decades. These little shops were everything. And get this, at their peak in the 70s, there were over 10,000 of them across the country. They were a true cornerstone of the community. And a trip to the milk bar? Oh, it was a full-on sensory overload, wasn't it? You had those rows of big glass jars filled with lollies, the fizz of a spider being made with creaming soda and a scoop of ice cream, that smell of hot chips wrapped up in paper. You'd always see the glow of a pinball machine in the corner. And this is the big one. You knew the owner and they knew you. It was way more than just a shop. It was a connection point.
And speaking of those lollies, a single dollar coin back in the 80s, that thing felt like a lottery win. It was enough to buy you an actual paper bag stuffed with happiness. The only hard part was figuring out what to spend it on.
You'd be on your tippy toes, pointing at the jars one by one. Some musk sticks, please, a few cobras, and a killer python. And of course, there were the ones that have since been renamed. You might remember fags, which are now fads, and redskins, which are now red rippers. The shopkeeper would pop them on those old metal scales, twist the top of the bag shut, and you were good to go. All right, from one sacred place to another, the Friday night trip to the video shop. The VCR just exploded in the 80s. I mean, look at this. By 1989, a whopping 70% of Australian households had one. That turned movie night into this weekly pilgrimage for the whole family. And this just sums up the difference perfectly, doesn't it? Back then, it was a whole mission. The family would pile into the car, you'd argue for 10 minutes over which movie to get, and you judged everything purely on the cover art. You had the Be Kind rewind stickers, and the dread of late fees. And now, an algorithm just serves something up, and you scroll through it all by yourself. The whole ritual, it's just gone.
Now, these rituals weren't just happening out in the neighborhood, they were taking shape right inside the typical Aussie home too. The 80s house had its own set of icons, these objects that were right at the center of family life, starting with a little beige box that basically changed everything.
Before the internet, before PlayStations, there was this thing, the Commodore 64. A whole generation of kids learned to type this exact command, and then you just waited and waited, listening to this screeching sound from a cassette tape for 15 minutes, hoping the game would actually load. But hey, at its peak, it had over 40% of the market. It was really the first time technology in the home felt personal.
And if you stepped out into the backyard, another icon stood tall, the Hills Hoist. It was never just a clothesline, was it? It was the unofficial centerpiece of Australian outdoor life. By the 80s, it's estimated there was one of these things spinning away in about 5 million backyards.
Because let's be real, its most important job was being the wicket for those never-ending games of backyard cricket. The rules were totally unwritten, but somehow universal. One hand, one bounce, 6 and out over the fence, and you absolutely, under no circumstances, could get out on the first ball. The sound of a tennis ball hitting that metal frame, that was the sound of summer.
Back inside, there was this quiet but really powerful pride in the things we owned. That green and gold kangaroo logo, it launched in 1986, and you started seeing it everywhere. It was more than a sticker. It was this badge of honor you'd find on everything from the family car to the washing machine. It was a symbol of local quality in Australian jobs. But, well, that whole era came to a close, as this timeline shows pretty clearly. Maybe your dad drove a Holden built in Elizabeth or a Ford that rolled off the line in Broadmeadows. But if you followed that line from the logo launch in '86
all the way to 2016 and 2017, that's when the last of those massive car plants shut their doors for good. It was a huge shift, not just for our economy, but for our national identity.
So all these shared objects and local products, they really helped build a shared culture. And you could really see that in the media we all consumed together, from what was on TV at prime time to the music you had to record yourself.
For almost 30 years, Saturday night meant one thing. You sat down with the family and you watched Hey Hey, It's Saturday. At its absolute peak, 2.4 million Australians were watching it every single week. Can you even imagine that now? From Red Faces to Pluck a Duck, it was a national event that actually brought everyone together.
And it wasn't just variety shows. Thanks to local content rules, the 80s became this golden age for Aussie drama. Shows like A Country Practice, The Flying Doctors, and of course, Neighbours. They weren't some glossy American import. They showed our towns, our accents, and our stories right there on the screen.
The music was just as important, but getting your hands on it took real work. Making a mixtape, that was an art form. You'd sit by the radio, finger hovering over the record button, just praying that the DJ wouldn't talk over the start of your favorite song. It was personal. It was a gift. It's a whole world away from the instant, perfect, algorithm-driven Spotify playlist.
And for entertainment outside the house, there was the arcade. It was like this glowing digital cave. A dark room just filled with the sounds of Pac-Man and Space Invaders. You'd walk in with a $5 note and feel like an absolute king, spending a whole afternoon trying to get your 3 little initials on that high-score screen.
So as we look back on all this, the milk bars, the mixtapes, the backyard cricket, it kind of begs the question, why do these specific things have such a powerful, lasting grip on our collective memory?
I mean, really, why do we get so nostalgic for a screechy cassette tape or a particular brand of lolly? What is it about these moments that makes them so unforgettable?
Well, I think the answer is that they stick with us because they were never really about the things themselves. The video shop wasn't just about renting a movie. It was about the family ritual of choosing one together. The milk bar wasn't just for buying milk. It was the heart of the neighborhood. These memories represent a time that was built on tangible, shared experiences.
All those rituals, they connected us to the world and to each other in a real physical way, which feels so different from today's world of algorithms and scrolling by yourself. So I'll leave you with this. Looking back at that sun-soaked decade, what's the one memory that hits you the hardest?